Welcome to the She Will Shine podcast, where we bring you the real stories of female business owners. My name is Danielle Price and I'm the founder of She Will Shine, a supportive business network for women. It's time to give a voice to women in business and discover their journey. Welcome to the She Will Shine podcast. Before we begin today, we would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the country on which we record this podcast, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and we recognise their continuing connection to the land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past and present. Now, on today's episode, we have the lovely Casey Allen with us. How are you, Casey?
Good, thank you.
Nice to see you from sunny Wollongong today, or not so sunny Wollongong?
It is a sunny Wollongong today, but every day is different. Could be wintry again tomorrow.
Oh, not as bad as Melbourne.
Well, I lived in Melbourne for 4 years and it kind of the up and downness of it reminds me a bit of that, but it doesn't get as cold here.
Yep. All right.
Yep.
Now, for those who may not know Casey just yet, Casey Allen is the founder of Blush Digital, but she's not just a passionate digital marketer. She has also founded her own successful e-commerce business, so she gets it, having been a store owner and striving to grow a business from the ground up. Now, Casey genuinely loves paid advertising, social media marketing and email marketing, and has seen firsthand how they can help to grow a profitable business. Now, Casey, I wanted to kind of go back a little bit.
Yep.
When you were in high school, what did you kind of envision you would be when you grew up?
You know what? I actually didn't know. If you'd asked me in primary school, I would have said a school teacher, and that was kind of the imaginative play I did as a child. And then when I finished high school, I did really well in my HSC. I got a 90 plus, I think it was called a UAI at the time. And I remember sitting down with mum and dad and I think you could put 8 or 9 courses. Anyway, there was a list of courses you could put in your uni preferences. And I remember writing anything from biology, because I was interested in, biology and the environment. I had fashion design because I'd studied 3-unit textiles and design in my HSC. I used to make my own clothes in high school. I had business. There was probably a couple of other random things on there that I now can't remember. And I treated it like a bit of a lottery. And I thought,
see what comes up.
Whatever happens, I'll just go and do that, because gap years weren't a thing then. You didn't kind of take a year off. You went straight into university. And I happened to get into a business degree at UTS, the University of Technology in Sydney, and away I went. That was kind of where I went to first after high school.
And did you enjoy that?
Parts I did and parts I didn't. And that, hindsight's a wonderful thing. You look back now and you watch your journey over schooling and then kind of what you did in career-wise. The parts around accounting and economics I didn't love. But the parts around marketing and people, I really did love. And that's kind of where my career ended up post-uni.
So did you go straight into a job after that?
Yep. So I actually started working while I was still studying, and I went to part-time to finish my degree by distance education. So at the time when I began uni, I was working for Freedom Furniture in store, which I loved because, homewares and furniture and interiors and just fun being part of that team. And their support centre HR team knew that I was studying and had a role come up for a human resource coordinator, and they approached me to apply for that role, which I did, and I got. So I started working full-time and then switched to part-time to finish the rest of my degree.
At any point in that kind of studying first job kind of part of your journey, did you think about running a business on your own?
No, I didn't. That didn't come until much later on down the track. And career-wise, I didn't stay necessarily in human resources. I then got poached by the marketing team at Freedom, by their head of marketing, to go and work in their team, which I did for a couple of years. And my degree had been in human resources and marketing. So it felt great because very early on, in my career, I got to dip my toe in the water of human resources, and I got to dip my toe in the water of marketing. And then I ended up in a business development project type role for a management consultancy who specialised in leadership and culture work. So it was almost a brilliant blend of the two.
Yeah, I was about to say, what a time.
Yeah, and I don't think at the time I necessarily planned it that way. But again, you look back and you go, oh, yeah, I can see how both of those things, led to where I ended up. And I stayed there for 10 years. And then
that's a long time, 10 years.
It is a long time, particularly for my generation, our generation, this day and age. You tend to move around a bit more. But it was a really small family-owned consultancy with a really great reputation in the market, and the mentorship I had within that business was just amazing, and it was a great team that was like a second family, and that was why I stayed there as long as I did. And the owner of that business mentored me into a consulting role. So prior to having a baby, I was consulting to large organizations around change management, leadership and culture. So that was a pretty exciting place to be, flying all over the countryside and getting some really great insight into big organizations and what was working, what wasn't working, and helping them to navigate that. So it was an exciting time. But coming back to, had I ever thought about starting my own business? I hadn't until I went on maternity leave. And as many women would resonate with, something just shifts inside you when you've got this little, bundle of joy most of the time. They also scream and
demand attention
out of you at times. But that was really when I started to think about, how can I be a mum? I couldn't see myself going back to what I was doing prior to that. So what would that look like for me? And I got really interested in e-commerce. And that was when I started my e-commerce business when Edie, our little girl, was about 12 months old. Yeah, so that was my first entry into business ownership.
Were you scared?
No, I wasn't scared. There wasn't any risk really associated with it. I think what I was scared of was, and something I really missed in that 12 months of mat leave that I took, was having time to sit down and really immerse myself in something, because when you've got a baby at home, you're on their schedule, they're not on your schedule. So I think the things I was more scared about was, would I have enough time to be able to do a really good job and be able to immerse myself in starting this business and running this business whilst being a mum. And that was quite a big mindset shift for me, and a really different way of working to how I'd worked in the past.
I found that time quite frustrating because of that. Like, I loved being a mum and didn't dislike that. I was doing what I wanted to do, but I also found it really frustrating because I'm quite motivated and quite driven, and when I've got an idea, I just want to do it. I'm not one of those persons who dilly-dally. I'm like, if I've got an idea, I just go with it. And I couldn't do that when I was running my business around my babies when they were very little, because it's like, well, like you said, you're on their time, not on your time.
Yes, totally. I
found that time really frustrating.
Yeah, I found that too. And people say to me now, I think I'm 7 years into working from home for myself, second business now, but people say to me, how do you have the discipline to work from home? Like, my husband really didn't enjoy working from home during COVID. He prefers to be in an office environment. But for me, I can walk in the door after school drop off, completely immerse myself and not even get out of my chair bar going to the bathroom during the day until I leave for school pickup in the afternoon, because I just really like to get into my zone and get work done. And you just can't do that when you've got little babies or children at home running around. Edie was home from school sick yesterday, and I was like, every 15 minutes, can I have a snack? Can you play with me?
And I think that's really interesting because, kind of at that time when they are little, the boundaries are all blurred, because you're like, okay, if they're down for a sleep, I quickly catch a couple of hours or whatever. And then once they get bigger, you've got to kind of reset the boundaries.
You really do. And your ways of working changes. And as I said, I have started a second business in the last 12 months. And it wasn't until Edie went to school, she's in what we call kindergarten, Melbourne calls it prep, that she started school last year, that I suddenly went to having the year before she was 3 long daycare days a week, and then I had 2 days that I spent with her, to suddenly having 5 much shorter days. Mind you, you don't get a lot done in the school day. You kind of just get into it and then you're out the door for pickup. So my world changed suddenly, because now here I am with 5 days a week. Thankfully, I get 2 longer days, one with after school care, one with my parents, thinking, oh, all of a sudden I've got a different different plate in front of me, and how do I want to fill it, and what do I want to do with that time, and time to sit and navel gaze around, okay, what's working and what's not working, particularly after 2 years of COVID. Right. Most of us are in that mindset anyway. So I kind of had that intersection of post-COVID. We only have one child, so suddenly she's at school. What do I want that to look like now in this next phase?
Yeah. And I think the phases change again as they grow and have different needs. Yes. Like my kids are kind of got after school activities coming out of their, it's just like, oh my gosh, after school is just nightmare around here. But it changes, and you've got to like reset your work boundaries and work yourself out and get that different, as you said, a different plate comes in front of you. You've got to work out how you're going to, make it all work again.
Yeah, totally. Very much so.
Yeah. You mentioned that, you had the e-commerce store.
Yes.
Can you take us through kind of how long you ran that for, and what you enjoyed from that side of the business?
Yeah, so that business, so Chasing Case, which is a women's fashion brand, had been running for 5 years, at the point that Edie went to school last year. So look, I loved that business. I still love that business. I always referred to it as my second child.
I think we all do that with our baby, our business baby.
Yeah, at the moment it's my neglected second child, but we'll probably get to that later. But I love that business for lots of reasons. One, it provided me the opportunity to stay at home and to be able to be available for Edie when she needed me, without having that pressure of, I need to take a sick day, or school holidays have come up, how are we going to manage that? It just meant that, and often that meant putting extra pressure on myself, because you don't turn off a business like an e-commerce business when the school holidays start. It just isn't like that. But I was able to juggle. It gave me something that was mine, and that I could funnel my ambition and my goals and my sense of achievement into after becoming a mum. And look, fashion's fun. You know yourself when you go shopping and you buy new clothes. I got to do that on a mass scale. Once a fortnight. So, that's a fun place to be in, and, photo shoots and all that sort of stuff that goes with it. So it was really a really fun business and a great business to dip my toes into. I learned a lot. I mentioned I worked in marketing. Digital marketing wasn't a thing then. We were still running billboard advertising and letterbox drop catalogs and, direct marketing through the postal system when I worked in marketing. And then suddenly I start an online business where we have, organic social media. I don't think I even had a Facebook account when I started working in marketing. Instagram, you've got email marketing systems, you've got paid social advertising, it's huge. So it was a big learning curve as well, learning all of that stuff. And how that fits together with e-commerce as a type of business.
Yeah. We were just chatting prior to starting the recording about how much you do love the learning aspect though.
Yes, I do. I think I'm a lifelong learner, but I'm a really practical learner too. It was one of the things I struggled with at university, was learning but not being able to apply it. And I think that was why I was keen to get working before I even finished uni, because I just like to see what I'm learning applied in a practical way. And, you can do that in your own business. I really valued that part of, starting that e-commerce business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you find that, was that one of the challenges in that you had to learn so much and all that kind of digital space became so huge?
I probably didn't realise how big the learning curve would be,
yeah.
but also how, the learning curve goes up, and often with things it comes back down. With digital marketing, the learning curve goes up and it stays up.
It never ends.
It never ends because it's constantly changing, So I do enjoy it, and it can also be quite exhausting sometimes. And I think as a digital marketer, you need to be able to put boundaries around the shiny, sparkly stuff. So, I started to get into TikTok and Pinterest and with my e-commerce business, and then realized I had spread myself really thin and wasn't doing anything particularly well, and had to draw it back at certain times. Yeah.
So how long, there was a bit of an evolution in the business, and now you're in digital marketing.
Yep.
What kind of changed for you to sort of make that switch?
Yep. Big changes. So my business was, I think, 2.5 years old at the beginning of COVID. And within a week, that business tripled in size.
Wow.
And at that stage, I was still only myself in the business. Because suddenly we had everyone at home. We had a change of season. We were going from summer into autumn, winter, from a selling fashion perspective. And literally the week that the government packages kicked in, people started spending, and it just went gangbusters. And it was exciting, and you want to make hay while the sun shines, and I just threw everything into it, also while suddenly having a child at home. And I think
can do it all though, aren't we all superwoman? Come on, Casey.
A million plates in the air. Thrown on top of that with challenges like stock. Everything was imported from China, and suddenly that ground to a halt. So thankfully I had really bloody good relationships with my suppliers who had pre-onshored some winter stock, very limited, but said to a very select number of stores, this is available if you want to purchase. So, in I went and got as much as I could. Then I had the challenge of where the hell am I going to keep it? Because at that stage, all my warehousing was still at home. So mid-COVID, I had to outsource and find a warehouse. I then realised I needed staff because I was packing orders at all hours of the night. So very quickly I had to scale that business, not just in terms of marketing and sales, but also supply, and many of those internal, processes and procedures that you need to build around a business when you start to employ people, because everything is in your head up until that point in time.
Did all that HR experience that you'd had previously come flooding back?
Yeah, and I think the business, having done a business degree, just the general understanding of how the different parts, and I'd worked in change management more recently, which part of that is process and procedure, so it's kind of second nature to me. And yes, it definitely all kicked in at that point in time. But while the ride was wild, it was exhausting. And I think I ran on adrenaline, as most of us did in different shapes and forms, for the period of COVID. And I got to the end of it and I was bloody tired.
Yeah, understandably.
And I think when you grow a business, you look back at a point in time and you start to reflect on what are the things that I really enjoy doing and what gets me out of bed in the morning. And suddenly I wasn't doing those things, because they're the things that I had started to outsource to other people. And my job had been, become about managing numbers and managing logistics of getting stock in and out in time. And I just wasn't loving it. I really wasn't loving it. It just hit me actually when Edie started school that, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And for a while I held this belief around, no, I started this and I must see it through. And then I kind of got to about May last year and I went, why? Why must I see it through? Why can't it look different? And that was kind of the turning point for me, and how I've evolved into owning a second business.
Do you think, I've had businesses in the past that I've closed and etc.
Yeah.
And like I've often reflected, and it's like, was it really hard to do because of me or because of what I thought other people would think of me?
Totally. Yes. There's so much, for me, there was so much status. And I don't mean that in a egocentric kind of way, but there was a lot of status and identity that I had wrapped up in that business. And I felt like if I made the decision to change directions, that somehow people might see that as a failure on my part.
Yeah.
You know, letting staff go, scaling back stock, losing suppliers, all that sort of stuff. One, I felt like I was letting people down, and two, I was really bloody worried about what people would think of me. But why keep pushing something when it's not bringing you joy? The whole reason I decided to work for myself was so that I could do what I wanted to do. And I wasn't doing that, you know, and if I was honest with myself, I wasn't doing that anymore.
Yeah. It's a hard decision. I completely understand. And I know what I went through. I think my biggest fail, what I saw as my biggest fail, because we had opened a co-working space in Melbourne, and I think it closed in 2018. So I think we opened it in around 2015, 26, maybe 2016. Anyway, so we had it, and we were the first all-female co-working space in Melbourne. And so not only kind of did I have people that I knew that knew all about it, but we got a bit of PR about it. Like, it was a bit of a thing, right? I'm like, well, you know, people that don't know me know about this, and it's like, what are they going to think? Are they going to think that I'm a failure? And then even though the She Will Shine community is tied to the co-working space, it's not attached to the co-working space, if that makes sense. And I was like, how can I continue this when I'm closing this? And it's a really hard time.
It is. And just the untangling of your own beliefs that you hold around things. And when you finally, you know, it's funny, when you finally challenge that belief, what opens up? If you'd asked me 2 years ago, even 18 months ago, if I would start a digital marketing agency, I would have said no. Why would I do something like that? But here I am, 9 months in, loving it, going really well. And it wasn't until I challenged that belief around, why am I doing this e-commerce business, until I kind of let that shift within myself, that I was able to even contemplate doing something different.
Yeah. And I think as well, because, you know, there's so much of ourselves in our businesses, like that just comes naturally, I think, more as females than males. I could be proven wrong, but in my opinion, excuse me. And I think, like you said, disentangling that from yourself, because we evolve as people, not just as business owners. It's like, and whatever we're working on needs to evolve with us.
Yes.
And it's like, well, if that's not giving me joy anymore, then how am I going to evolve and find something that is? So,
someone said to me during that period, if you were working for someone else and you were this unhappy, you'd go and get a different job. How is it any different when you work for yourself? And I was like, it's actually really true. I was making it, it was me that was making it difficult. Because if I had been working for someone else, I probably would have gone and gotten a different job. And that was a pretty light bulb moment. It was around, okay, I'm the one that's making this difficult. Yeah.
So let's start about now. How did you start your second business? How did that kind of, that transition happen?
That, you know, I was navel gazing around that time. And when I thought about what did I really love about chasing case and e-commerce, the part of the business that I really loved was the paid social advertising. My brain is both creative and data driven. And when I think about that, and I think about paid social advertising, it's a beautiful blend of both of those things. So I could sit in Facebook, now Meta Ads Manager, all day long looking at data. And
it sounds like my worst nightmare.
I know. I feel like a pig in mud. That's just how my brain works. And I also enjoy the creative side of writing ads and imagery and matching that to avatars and that kind of strategic piece of the advertising as well. So when I thought about, okay, what did you love? Like when you were really enjoying your business, what were the parts of it that you really loved? That was one of them. And I also reflected on, even before e-commerce, in, previous jobs, what had I really enjoyed? And when I was consulting prior to having Edie, that was something I really enjoyed as well. I really enjoyed that client relationship. I actually enjoy supporting others more than I do being at the forefront. And
we have that in common.
Yeah. And so that naturally, it just kind of evolved. And then I remember my in-laws were visiting one night and we were just chatting and it just came out of my mouth. And I think my husband looked at me and was like, maybe to start another business, because it goes on in your head, you're having this conversation with yourself for so long. And I said, well, why not? I could just do both for a little while and see what happens. I had some really great connections in the e-commerce world, other business owners, coaches and mentors that I'd worked with over the time I'd had and built Chasing Case. And I thought, I'm just going to put the feelers out and see what happens. And I'd given myself until the new year, being this new year, to kind of make a call about what foot I was going to, which camp my feet were going to be in, because for a while they were straddling both. And I'm pretty confident to say that the digital marketing side of what I do is where I'd like to be at the moment. So that's kind of how it came about. It wasn't a really deliberate thing. It was just a whole bunch of reflection, opening up the opportunity, and then thinking, yeah, actually that could work, and giving it a go.
When you done that, did you think to yourself, yes, this is where I'm meant to be?
It probably took it took a few months to kind of get those clients on, because when you start something new, you're building it from scratch. So in my very methodical way, I had a spreadsheet of get logo designed, buy domain names, kick off website, start social media pages, all that stuff around building a presence. Tell my accountant what I'm doing so she shouldn't freak out at tax time. All that nuts and bolts type stuff. I thought I'll just get that part done, and then I'll see if I get a client. And then client one arrives. Okay, well, I'll get all of my systems and processes around that client set up, and then I'll see if another client arrives. And, then the next client arrived. And here I am in, March now, with a full schedule, actually probably one more client than I should have on my plate at the moment.
Yeah.
But definitely, happy to make extra time for them. And so now it feels right. Now it feels great. And what happens now that I've got a full digital marketing schedule is, I talked about my neglected second child being my e-commerce business. It's not getting the love that it has in the past. And it's a very, very scaled back version of what it was in its heyday. And that's fine. I still tinker in that business and play around with things before I roll it out to clients. So it's serving a different purpose now. But I definitely am feeling now, 6, 7, 8 months in, feeling like I'm where I'm meant to be. It felt a bit confused for a while because I wasn't sure. But yeah, now I am feeling it. Yeah.
Do you miss any of the Chasing Case aspects of that business?
Yes, I do.
Shopping?
I miss the shopping. I do miss the shopping. I miss, look, when you're working with clients, and this isn't a negative at all, just like babies, you're on their schedule. So if a client needs an ad campaign up by the weekend because they forgot to tell you they're about to, run a sale, you kind of got to make it happen, right? So that is the part that's a bit different to when I was running my own e-commerce business, where I set the schedule. And I've got staff sending out orders. So if I wanted to take a day off, it was only myself that was going to miss me on that day. The business was set up in a way that it could essentially run itself. Whereas now I need to be available for those clients when they need things. So probably the part that I miss, like you say, the fashion and the creativity angle of it. But no, I don't miss enough about it to want to be back in it full time.
Yeah. What do you think has been, I guess, the highlight of your digital marketing business?
Getting to capacity within 7 months. I hadn't planned for it. I really hadn't. I hadn't planned for it. The opportunities that have come my way, and look, I have beautiful clients. You know, I talk about sometimes people forget stuff and need something really quickly. That is a-okay, because I really love my clients. So I'm really proud that I've attracted enough clients to make it viable, because as women, we shouldn't be working for free. And that they're clients that I really enjoy working with, and businesses that I really believe in what I'm marketing for them. And I do have those pinch myself moments on really crazy days, you know, where you get to the end of the day and you've still got half of your to-do list left to do, and you've got to find time to do it. Instead of getting grumpy about that, I just remind myself, this is, you know, I'm here. I made it. And that there's positives in that. And I'm really grateful for that.
Do you think like you'll grow it with staff as you have with the e-commerce business?
I don't know. It's a decision I will need to make at a point in time. At the moment, I'm really happy just being me. There are parts that I could definitely look to subcontract out, more of the administrative side of things. So someone helping with report writing, copywriting, you know, some of those things, again, that I enjoy doing less, still capable of doing, but probably enjoy less. So there's parts I could definitely get some help with. But do I want to grow an agency with employees? Definitely not at this stage, particularly after winding back that part of my e-commerce business. I'm enjoying just being me. Being hands-on, being across everything. And I think that's it's a unique selling point to my clients as well, because I bring that e-commerce experience. I know how to run digital marketing and do strategy really well. And I'm across all of the detail. They're not sitting within an agency model, you know, a bigger agency model. With its own systems and practices. I just need to get better at setting boundaries. I think we're all guilty of a little bit of that, right?
Yes, but you'll get there. I'll keep you accountable. I'll hold you accountable for that. One thing, Casey, so I've met you, it was about 4-5 months ago you joined She Will Shine, 6 months ago maybe?
Yeah, I've been lurking in the wings for a while. Going to the coffee catch-ups that we have here in Wollongong, which is the highlight of my month.
Oh, I love it.
I get out of my spare bedroom, as you can see behind me, which also doubles as my office. And I get to catch up with a really great bunch of women and connect. And I really value that time and the time I get to spend with them. So I had been going to those for a while, and I'd been watching She Will Shine on social media. And then I thought, you know what? Part of my new business and practice and ways of working is about having connection, because I think when you work on your own, you can get very isolated very quickly. And that was why I decided to join She Will Shine and got to meet the lovely yourself.
And that's the thing. I have loved how much you have embraced. I think I've commented on this with you before, how much you have embraced being a part of the community, how you've shown up in the community and contributed. And I love that. I love that when people do that from day dot, because I think to myself, they're getting the most value out of their membership and out of the beautiful community that I've created. How much do you think having that, I know Kate and the crew in Wollongong are just amazing. How much do you think having that kind of support around you has helped, as you said, it can be quite isolating, but also kind of to push you to go forward, you know what I mean? To kind of give you that extra confidence or courage to keep going.
Yeah, totally. It's seeing other women doing it, right? And not in a competitive way. It's like when your kids are with their peer group. This might sound negative. It's not peer pressure, but they see their friends doing something and they go, oh, I want to do that too. And I feel like that in an online community like you've built is just to be in the presence of other women who are doing it too, is such a healthy reminder of, I'm not the only one plugging away in my spare bedroom / office. And let's face it, we connect virtually these days. It's just, it's where life has headed. So I love the online community for that. And I love the face-to-face coffee catch-ups as well, because it gives me the best of both worlds. As well as the group are really open, if you've got questions or, things that you're not sure about, the group offer some really insightful feedback when you do have something that you're not quite sure about. And potentially I should use the group more for that kind of thing, not just the more community aspect of it.
Yeah, they're an amazing bunch of women. We're so lucky, aren't we?
We are lucky, and there's so many of us around. I think we forget how many of us are doing what we're doing, facing similar challenges to one another. So, why not do it together rather than plug away and think you're the only one in the world that's doing it?
It's so easy to think that. That's what I found. Like, when you're in your bubble, you can be so entrenched in your bubble. Yes. And you can be overthinking every single aspect of your business and thinking that you're so alone. You've got no one to help you. And it's like, you just got to break through that bubble to actually see there's women out there who are, there's the thing, we're all different industries, but we have the same challenges.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, totally. Yeah. And I don't have friends that are in business like me. So it's having people to share the experience with, that I find so important.
Yeah. Casey, I'm going to ask you one more question.
Yeah.
So as your time as a business owner running two very successful businesses, what do you think has been the absolute highlight across that business owner journey?
The highlight for me, and this is a personal one, is when my little girl dreams up what her businesses are going to be in the future. And I love that because, I don't care what she ends up doing as long as she puts her mind to something that she loves. But I just feel like she is getting the example from me that you can create what you want to create, really. It's not easy. But I wanted to create a life where I could be home for her. And that's meant some sacrifice and personal challenges along the way. But to have her then go, I might be in business one day, whether she does or not, I don't care. But the fact that that is an option for her and she's seen it done, I think that would be the highlight of, being a business owner.
100%. Yeah. Because like you, both of us we never thought about starting a business.
No.
And it's like, for someone at that age to have that thought that that's a possibility.
Totally.
Is amazing.
Yeah.
It's such a beautiful role model.
Yeah. My mum wasn't a business owner. My grandmother wasn't a business owner. Dad owned his own businesses, but from a female perspective, I didn't have that person, and she's got that person, and it just, opens up another door for her potentially in the future as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a beautiful note to finish on. Thank you so much, Casey, for your time.
Thank you. It's nice to chat and reflect. You don't kind of tell your story to many people, so it's been nice for me too.
Likewise, it's been nice to have this conversation, and I'm looking forward to now sharing it with our wider community.
Lovely.
We really appreciate your time, and I wish you every success for the future. And I know that you'll continue doing amazing things, and I love that I can be beside you in that as well.
Wonderful. Thanks so much, Danielle.
Thanks, Casey. And thank you to everyone for joining us today on the She Will Shine podcast. We will have another episode for you soon. Have a great day. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode of the She Will Shine podcast, we invite you to check out shewillshine.com.au. She Will Shine is the essential support network you need to grow a thriving, meaningful business. We can help you grow your network, connect and develop genuine relationships, be supported, and support others in building and growing a successful business on your terms. Say goodbye to working alone and become a member at shewillshine.com.au.